Life hummed along. I settled into work and continued to teach part-time and do freelance work. Carly and I also poured our creative talents into our church, the same church that my dad was still pastoring. I also began looking for a good martial arts dojo to begin training with my son, Grant. Carly had always dreamed of opening her own art studio, and that dream was fulfilled when we moved to a nearby town called Embrun. We remodeled the front living room into an art studio, and her dream became a reality. And yes, she still hides daisies in all of her work. The name of her studio? Hidden Daisy Fine Art Studio. The kids were growing too. Each of them enjoys great health, but one incident shook us when Carter was young. One summer evening, Grant was playing soccer with friends. Carly and I were sitting fieldside watching the game with several other parents and family members. Carter, now 18 months old, was snuggled up in Carly's lap. He had woken up from this afternoon nap with a slight fever, which Carly attributed to teething. As the game played on, Carly noticed that Carter began to twitch. She felt his little body convulse and looked down to discover he was having a full-blown seizure. Carly screamed for my brother David, who was there with his family. Before becoming a chiropractor, David had been a paramedic, so he knelt to see what he could do. I called 911 and explained my little boy was having a seizure. While we waited for the ambulance, I knelt next to Carter, stroking his head while David checked him over, and Carly sat beside me. Carter continued to convulse and twitch. I realized, staring at him with no knowledge of what to do, there was absolutely nothing I could do to help. Had he died, I was utterly powerless to stop it. I looked down at him, fighting back tears of anger and inadequacy. God, don't let him die. Carter eventually stabilized, the ambulance arrived, and he was taken to the Children's Hospital for further testing. Carly rode in the ambulance, and I frantically followed. I screamed in exasperation, frustration, and helplessness as I drove. I was powerless to protect my son. And then it hit me. This is what my parents must have felt when I was young. This was it. This incident was only a tiny glimpse into what they had routinely lived with for years. How did they get through this? How had they endured this for years? How? We learned that Carter had experienced a febrile seizure, a convulsion in children that is caused by a fever. These seizures can occur in young, healthy children, and while terrifying, they're not uncommon. Helplessness gave way to gratefulness, knowing that Carter was going to be okay. What I learned from this incident changed how I viewed my parents and how they had weathered the storms they faced with me. It was a role reversal. Mom and Dad had chosen to totally depend on God rather than try and take charge of matters they ultimately could not control. For me, going through surgeries meant suffering and recovery. But for them, as parents, it was a completely different struggle. That raging helplessness and anger I felt showed me that I did not have 1 ounce of control over Carter's situation. The illusion of control we think we have in our lives is just that, an illusion. Some issues are so big that we must give that weight to God, because if we try to bear it on our own, it will crush us. I also learned that I would rather be the one on the operating table than watch someone I loved be operated on. I would always rather be the patient.